Hi there, and thanks for joining me. My name's Lori, and I'm the CEO, inventor, and creative visionary of Unique in the Creek Wreathing Boards. Today I'm going to show you how to make a very easy daisy using the Unique in the Creek large board, a fake faux center. These can be purchased online at different craft stores, but if you purchase one of our kits, you will get one in your kit. And I've attached 2 pipe cleaners to the back of it with a U-pin. Okay, these come in various colors, but for the daisy, we're going to be using yellow. Okay, so you will need one of these. You will need zip ties. I use 6.5-inch, 18-pound zip ties. You will need a couple clothespins, and these are just handy for when you're constructing your flower to just give you another almost set of hands. You're going to need sharp scissors, so hopefully you have a nice pair of sharp scissors. You will need a wire snipper or nippers, and these are to cut the ends of the zip tie off. You don't want to use your good sharp scissors to do this because it will dull your scissors quite quickly. You'll need a measuring tool that is 10 inches, so just a piece of cardboard would suffice. A roll of white Deco mesh, because we're doing the daisy. Of course, daisies normally are white, so we got white and green Deco mesh, which is going to be the leaves we are going to put on the outside row. Okay, and then of course the Unique in the Creek large board. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to preload your Unique in the Creek board. Preloading your board before you start constructing your flower speeds up the process really quick. That way when you make your petals, you just kind of put them right in, zip them up, and just keep going around. And it's really, really easy to do. So what you're going to do is you're going to take some of your zip ties, and we're going to preload our board. We are going to preload row 2, 3, 4, and 5 right now. Row 1 is for the green leaves, and we're going to do that just a little bit differently than preloading 2 to 5. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to take your zip tie, and we're going to call this the tail, and this is the zip tie head. When you're using the zip tie, you always want the tail to go into the flat part of the zip tie head. Okay, so when you're going down your hole, make sure that the flat part is facing towards the inside of the set of holes. And you can see that there's more of a bicave or concave end of the zip tie. That's the back side of the zip tie head. So you're going to go down one hole and up the corresponding hole, and your zip tie head is facing the inside of the set of holes. And you're going to put the tail through the head and just give it a couple zips. You'll hear it like a zipper sound, and when you pull it, it will lock in place. Okay, if you try and do it and it's backwards, you will not hear a zipping sound and it will not lock in place. You'll just have to turn your zip tie around and put it in correctly. So again, we're going to go down one hole, up the corresponding one, put your zip tie in and lock it. So we're going to preload exactly this way all of row 2, all of row 3, all of row 4, and all of row 5. So this is number 3, down one hole, up the other, zip tie. You're going to do all of row 3, and then all of row 4, down one hole, up the other. Here, a couple zips, and then row 5. So there's 4 on row 5. There is 8 on row 4. There is 8 on row 3 and 16 on row 2. One more, down, up, flat side of the zip tie facing in towards the hole, zip, and it's locked. Okay, so if you want to pause here to preload your zip ties, press pause, and when you're finished preloading your board, come back and we're going to cut some mesh. Okay? Okay, so now we are going to cut our mesh, our Deco mesh. So this is a 10-inch by 10-yard roll, and you will need one full roll of this for this flower. You will not need the full roll of green, but you do get a full roll if you purchase the kit. And you can use as many pieces as you want or as little pieces as you want. It's totally up to you. So to cut our mesh for our flower, you're going to need your sharp scissors, your 2 clothespins, and your 10-inch measuring tool. So what you're going to do is open your mesh and you're going to roll it out so that the curl of the Deco mesh is rolling up. So Deco mesh always has a curl to it. So this is called curl up, and this would be called curl down. So as you can see, it doesn't roll back up on itself. For cutting our mesh, we're going to use it curl up, okay? And you're going to put your 10-inch piece measuring tool right on the mesh, right in the middle, okay? Going lengthwise, because we want our pieces as close to 10 inches as possible. For this flower, you will need the whole roll at 10-inch pieces, okay? So what you're going to do is put your measuring tool right down on your mesh, and you're going to flip it just like that. And what we're going to do is we're going to cut a few pieces of mesh all at the same time. Now, if you do have a cutting mat and a rotary cutter, you can cut your mesh just as quick on your mat with your rotary cutter. However, a lot of people do not have that, so this is the second best way to cut some mesh really quick as well. So what we're doing is we're going to close pin the 2 pieces that we folded over top with our measuring tool still in the middle, and you want it as tight as you can, because like I said, we need our 10-inch pieces as close to 10 inches as possible. So flatten this down, and now we're going to flip. Now I'm going to go over about 6 times. I have pretty sharp scissors. If you're unsure about your scissors, go over just a couple flips and test it out, okay? I'd rather you have nice clean edges and have to flip over more times than trying to do a whole bunch at the same time just to get it done faster. So we're going to flip. So that's 1, 2, and keeping it nice and tight, 3, 4. Now I'll stop at 4 here. That's good enough, because we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces. Once we cut this, we'll have 6 pieces quite quickly. So now you're going to take your clothespin off that bunch, and now you grab the whole bunch that you just flipped and put the clothespin on, and do the same for the bottom. And put the clothespin on. Put something on your mesh so it doesn't roll while you're cutting, and we're going to cut this right off the roll. So if you're going to cut it as close to the edge as possible here, okay? And now it's off the roll, and we have a stack like this. Now what I like to do is I flatten it and push it as far as I can, because I want to cut the sides right up the edge here. So get your scissors in the edge, cut a little bit of it, make sure you have all the pieces, so you should have 3 on each side, and just cut right up the center like this. Now I have a thick measuring tool in here. If you have a cardboard, it's much easier to cut up the side. Okay, so there's one side. Now you can pull your measuring tool out, and then we're going to cut up this side the same way, pushing down flat, and cut up the side. Make sure you have all the pieces, and we're going to cut up the side just like that. And when you take your clothespins off, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces just like that. So we're going to cut the whole roll like that. So I'm going to do it one more time, and then you can pause it after I'm done this time and continue cutting your mesh as well. So put your measuring tool straight on, flip it over, line the edges up as close as possible. So that's your serged edges or your factory edges. Put your clothespins on those two pieces. Okay. Flatten it down and flip. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I was quite happy with my scissors cutting through 4. I probably could have went more, but I'm going to keep it at 4 because there's no rush here. I'm going to take your time because you want your pieces, like I said, we need this whole roll at 10 inches. And now we're going to cut it off the roll again. So just put your little nippers to hold your roll so it doesn't interfere when you're cutting, and cut it right off the roll. Okay? And again, flatten your edge down. And when we're flattening this down, we're kind of pushing the mesh away from your cutting tool to give us some room to cut up the side. Okay, just like that. So you can pick up your whole pile and just cut up the edge. All right, so once you got the one edge cut, you can pull your tool out, press down, and do right up the same side. This side's a little easier because you can pick it up and just go down the side. Now it doesn't have to be totally precise because we will be folding this, and you do not have to worry about these frayed edges because with this petal you will not see any of our edges. So we don't worry about any frays or anything like that. So again, we got 1, 2, 3. Put it on our pile here. And 4, 5, 6. Okay, so you're going to cut your whole, the rest of your mesh on your roll exactly like I just showed you. So if you're building your flower along with me, you can pause it right here and go and cut your mesh and come back and press play, and we will do our petal fold. Okay, see you in a sec. Okay, so now we're going to cut our green mesh, and you're going to cut it the exact same way as you cut the white mesh. You're going to roll it out, put your measuring tool, and you can put as many green leaves around the outside as you want. So where we're going to put them is these 8 holes around the outside. You can put 8, you can put maybe just 2 on each side. You can put a double petal and put, you know, 2 petals in one hole here, 2 petals in one hole here, or you can put 2 petals in every hole if you want to make a nice green frame going around your daisy. So you have to decide how many leaves you're going to do, and we'll do just 8 for now. So we're going to need 8 pieces of 10-inch green mesh. So you're going to put your measuring tool down, flip your green over, put your clothespins on, and we're going to flip this over. We need 8 pieces, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So cutting it right here should give us the 8 pieces that we need for our leaves. Now I'm not too concerned about the being perfectly 10 inches with these because they are going on the outside and they just kind of literally frame the flower. It gives it a nice frame and really punches out the white and the yellow of the flower. So you're going to cut up the same right up the sides. pull your measuring tool out, and again, cut up the sides, just like so. Okay, so that should give us 8 pieces of green. Like I said, you can put as many pieces. If you want to double up each piece and put 16, 2 in each piece, that's totally up to you. You have enough green to do it. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Perfect. So for the leaves on the outside row, on row 1, what you're going to do is you're going to take a zip tie, okay, and you're going to go up through the bottom with that zip tie. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using this hole to the outside of the board to put our green leaves on. So again, you're going up through the hole, and you're going to just set it down on the table. In the zip tie, kind of make an L. Make sure that flat part of the zip tie is facing up towards the ceiling. It'll save you some frustration after you've made your petal. So for the leaves, you're going to take your 1 10-inch piece, and remember at the beginning I explained curl up and curl down. To make this petal, we are going to do curl down, okay, and we will have to cut some like little strings off. You will see the edges of this green leaf, but at the end you can cut all the strings off and trim it all up. Okay, so you got your 10 by 10 piece. What you're going to do is you're going to turn it into a diamond shape right in front of you, curl down. Okay, and to make this petal, you are going to scrunch or do like an accordion-like action from this corner to this corner. So between your thumb and your pointer fingers, you're going to go scrunch. Now I like to make sure that the point of the corner is facing down, because if it's facing up, it will make these edges curl up. And we don't want to see these edges because they are kind of frayed and stuff, so we'd rather hide them. So what you want to do is just have your scrunch with the corner going down and scrunch right up to the opposing corner like that. And what it will give you is something that looks like this. Okay, another way you can do it as well is you can take this corner and fold it in just towards, almost towards the center. Take this corner and fold it in as well, and then scrunch right up the middle just like that. And it gives you a little nicer leaf, but it's smaller. As you can see, it tucks in those ugly frayed edges, but the leaf is smaller. So you can try both ways and see which way you like to do it. I like the big leaves because I like how it frames around my flower. So I scrunch it like this. So you're just taking it and dragging. Now you don't want to do this on a tablecloth or anything, because you need a nice smooth surface to help you guide the mesh while you're scrunching it. Okay? Leave it pinched in the middle like this, and what you're going to do is just flip the 2 petals up towards the same way. So just like that. Okay? I like to flatten them out just to make sure they're kind of the same length. And then I'm going to take this and put this cornered piece, not letting go, right on top of my board here, and take my zip tie head and then the tail, meet them together. This is where you want to make sure that a zip tie is going the right way, because you already have your petal in there, and if you have to let go to turn your zip tie around, it's just a pain. So, and you're going to zip this nice and tight onto the board. Okay, and there is your first leaf. Now, if you're a beginner, this is a good way to start, is doing your green. Once you do a few of these, you'll figure out that it makes a neater flower if you do your green last. And why I say that is, once you put all your green around, your flower's becoming quite large, and you're going to start manipulating the board and putting your petals in for your flower, which your elbows and your arms and everything will keep hitting the deco mesh. Every time you touch the deco mesh, it's going to start to fray. So by the time you're finished your flower, your deco mesh will be a lot more frayed than when you actually put it in to begin with. So once you get the hang of how to do the outside leaves, you can leave the outside leaves till the end. That way you won't have to do much tidying up to them. Okay, so scrunch, pinch in the center, flip them up. I just flatten them to ensure they're around the same size. They don't need to be totally perfect. Then I take with this hand, I put my pointer finger in between and I scissor it with my thumb and my other finger, so I have the whole thing in my hand and the petals are in the palm. I'm going to take this. Now we want always the curl side down for the leaves. So when you put it on your door, these leaves are going to face your door and not show the fray edge and everything. So once you got it, put it the center on the board in between the outside edge of the board and the hole on row 1, and zip it on tight. Okay, and then you're going to take your wire nippers and just cut the zip tie tail off right at the head, and you can discard this. I usually have a little Rubbermaid bucket or something to put all my tails in. That way it end of cleanup is not so bad. You don't have like tails all over the place. Okay, so that is how you do the outside leaves, and you can continue on doing all 8. You can do 2 here and 2 here if you'd like. If you just want a little peak of green, it's totally up to you on how you want to do your outside leaves. Okay. Next we're going to do is a hanging hole. There's a hanger. So on the top of the board where there is a number 1, you will see 2 holes that are divoted in. Okay, they look, you can see them that it's actually called chamfered if we want to be technical. So I just called it divoted. These are our hanging holes. What we're going to do is these hanging holes, you can use ribbon if you want to make a big fancy bow for a hanger. You can use twine just to make a simple hanger. A lot of times I just use zip ties until I figure out what I want to do with it. Because I have a zip tie handy, and to do that you just go up one hole and back down the other. You can flip it over, do it up just a couple zips, cut the rest of that tail off, and you're going to leave it just like that, and we have ourselves a hanger. Okay, should you want to change this out afterwards, it's really easy to do. You just cut the zip tie and then add whatever you want for your hanger. Okay, so we just wanted to make sure we have our hanger done. Okay, so next is the actual construction of the petal for our daisy. And like I mentioned, this petal, you do not see any of the cut edges that we did, so we don't have to worry about the fray. Okay, so here is our 10 by 10 piece. I'll zoom back down. And what we're going to do, we are going to work with this piece curl up. Okay, remember curl up, so it looks like a U and it teeters. Curl down is when you are going to put the mesh straight down like that and it'll curl underwards. We're going to use curl up. Okay, then you're going to take your square piece and you're going to turn it into a diamond shape right in front of you. Okay, so curl up. Flip it till it's a diamond, so flatten it out in front of you, and your corners will match. And then these corners and so obviously it's a diamond shape. What you're going to do is you're going to now take this corner at the top, bring it down, and match it up with the bottom corner. And this is going to give you like a triangle shape. Okay, let's do that again. Top corner, bringing it down to the bottom corner. Okay, and now you're going to kind of match up your edges so it makes a nice, neat petal, and just flatten it down a bit, just like this. So we have a triangle in front of us, okay? Now what you're going to do is you're going to put your finger on this corner right here, down below where you matched the two corners, and take your left hand if you're left-handed, or if you're right-handed, and just kind of pull the center. So if you pull the center, you see almost an imaginary line. I don't know if the camera will pick it up, but when you're doing it, you can kind of see where the middle is stretched out, okay? I like to do it this way to make sure that each petal has the right point on it, and we fold it properly. And you'll see what I mean by that in 1 second. So I'm just stretching it out a little. So I got my thumb and my ring finger, just stretching it a bit. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this whole side and fold it over just like this, and match this corner up with this corner and flatten it down. Okay, so this is what we have. Okay, I'll do that one more time. So we're going to take, so when I do fold it over, I know that right here is about the center of this piece of triangle. So I'm going to take this, fold it right over, and match this corner up with the bottom and flatten it. Okay, now we're not going to let it go. Then what you're going to do is, I just tend to flip it this way, and I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm not going to let this side go, but I'm going to fold it over, match this corner with this corner, and I'm overlapping this first one that we did just a little bit. So do you see how I'm just kind of going over just a little bit, and this corner on this side is matching here. So what you have is something that looks like this, okay? It's still kind of a diamond shape in front of you, and it pretty much matches up. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take the ends where all these points matched up, and I'm going to use my cutting mat here. You're going to go about 1.5 inches or even 2 inches and scrunch, and it makes a tail just like this, and then it makes a petal. This is our petal shape for the whole daisy. Okay, so as you can see, you don't see any of the cut edges, and we don't see any fraying. That's why I don't worry too much when I'm cutting my mesh about all the strings and stuff like that. Okay, you're going to take now this is where it's up to you. You can either, if you're fairly confident that you can make all your petals to look exactly the same, that your seam will be the same on all your petals, you can put your petal in this way and have your seams up. If you're not so confident that your seams on all your petals will be exactly the same, flip it over so you don't see the seams, and then you don't have to worry about it. If this is your first one, I highly recommend just maybe having it seam down until you actually get the hang of making the petals. It does make the flower look a little bit different with seam up versus seam down, but it's still a stunning flower with seam down. So we're going to do this as seam down for beginners. So seam, this is your seam, we're going to put it down. Then you're going to take this tail part, and you're just going to stick it in till it hits your fingers, and hold it in there just like that, okay? And do this zip tie up as tight as you can, and then you can let go. So now you probably see why it's important to have your zip ties preloaded on the board, because once you make your petal, it's a bit difficult to put your petals in and try and do your zip tie up. It's just so much easier if you have your board preloaded and ready to go to put your petals in. Okay, let's do another one. This time we'll use get our clothespins, because we can do a couple petals at at a time and then put them all in. If you have more clothespins around the house, you can actually pause your video here, run around and collect them, because then you can make quite a few petals and you can get this flower done quite quickly. Okay, so I'll just pre-make 2 petals because I have 2 clothespins here. So again, curl up, turn it so it's going to be a diamond shape right in front of you. Take your top corner, bring it right down to the bottom, and line up your edges as best as you can. It doesn't have to be perfect. And just flatten it out a bit. Okay, it's like napkin folding. So I'm going to take my thumb and put it right where the corners are, and kind of stretching it so I know kind of where the middle of this piece of mesh is. I'm then going to take, and I'm right-handed, so I always do the right corner. Bring this down so it's straight down and the corner matches the corner that's already on the table. You can flatten it. And for me, I just spin it a quarter of the way around. That way I can still hold my petal down. Bring this side over, again, just overlapping maybe 1/2 inch over this side that's already down there, and it's matching up with this corner. And then around 2 inches, you can guess, you don't really need a cutting mat or anything, 2 inches, then take your clothespin and just clothespin your petal. So we're going to make another one, and that way we can put 2 in at the same time. Like I said, if you have more clothespins, you can run and get those, and you can make a bunch of petals to put them in. Okay, so folding, top, curl up, corner, down to the corner, kind of stretch, flatten it down, just makes a nice neat petal. Kind of stretch so we know approximately where the center is. Fold it over, I give it a 1/2 turn, bring the other side over, about a 1/2 inch overlap, and then pinch right at the bottom where all the corners meet, and you have another petal made. I also want to show you another way just to speed things up. If you're planning on making another daisy just like this one, what you can do is at Dollar Tree or any dollar store, in the hair section, they sell these little clear elastic bands, and you get 500 of them for $1. They're just little clear elastic bands, and they're in the hair section. These are really handy to pre-make petals, and I like to pre-make a whole bunch of petals and put them in a grocery bag. So normally I make all my wreaths in my lap. So I have a little laptop table that goes on my lap, and I sit in my recliner. I preload my board, so I preload all the zip ties. I don't cut my mesh on my lap. That's the only thing I do sitting down. But once I have all my mesh cut, I can bring all the mesh over to my recliner, put my feet back up, put my movie on, and I can pre-make all my petals. So I take a grocery bag, and on my laptop desk, I will start making my petals. So doing it the exact same way, turning it into a diamond, corner to corner, pressing down the edges, and keep in mind I'm doing this on my lap. My laptop desk is just actually a piece of wood that I put on my lap. Make your petal, so fold it over, 1/2 turn, fold it over again so both corners are matching. We'll just cut this nasty string off. Scrunch up about 2 inches, and now you're going to take one of these little elastic bands that are like 0.1 cent a piece, and you can go around the bottom twice, just like that, and your petal is done. And you can toss them into a grocery bag and have them all done all at once, and then bring your board, your preloaded board, back over, and you can start popping them all in. So we are going to go all the way around row 2. So again, you got your petal. We're doing seam down. I'm going to take my petal, stick it in till it hits the bottom of my mesh spade here, and do the zip tie up. So that's how easy it is with the elastics. Now with the clothespin, you can just take your clothespin off. Again, stick the tail in till it hits about the bottom of, I'm going to call this a spade type shape, and pull it tight. Okay, you're going to go around and do this for the whole row 1, row 2, row 3, row 4, and row 5. The whole flower is done with this exact petal. Okay, so once you're done row 1, go around and snip. Make sure they're nice and tight. Snip off your tails and discard them. If you want to add an extra layer of protection to make sure that these petals don't fall out, now you don't have to do this, but this is for people who like to sell their wreaths, and you want to ensure that these are not going to come out. You can put a little bit of hot glue over each tail. So start on the board and bring that string of glue over top and end on the other side. Start here and here end. Now if you're using the little elastics, you're not going to worry about that elastic in there. It will disintegrate or it will fall off. Nobody will even see it, but it's secured by the zip tie anyways. So that little elastic is just a bit of a helper. Okay, I have done a half of a board here already. And so you can see how pretty it becomes once you start layering them. You do not see any of the zip ties at all once you start layering your board. Okay, so I'm going to finish preloading this board. I only did half of it, so I'm going to preload this other half. And once I'm done preloading this, I'll come back and we will finish up this flower. Okay, see you in a sec. Okay, so I got my board all loaded, and I pre-made with my little elastics a whole bunch of petals. And I'm just going to go now and show you how easy it is. So what we're going to do is we're going to start from row 2 and work our way to the inside. And it's easier to do that, as you can see, it layers. So starting from the outside layer and working in is the best way to do that. So I'm going to take my petal, seam side down, put it into the zip tie till it hits the bottom of the spade, and zip. And then I'll go around and clip all the zip ties off at the same time. That way I'm not picking up the tool every single time I put a petal in, which again saves a lot of time. So if you do prepare your flowers ahead of time, you can make one of these quite quickly, like half an hour maybe. I've been known to make a daisy like this within 15 minutes of start to finish. So it's all practice makes perfect. Okay, row 2 is done. Making sure all our petals look good, and let's go around and just get our little container and snip right off. Now, if you do have problems pulling the zip ties, which I sometimes do because I have a bit of arthritis in my hand, I do have a cheap pair of needle nose pliers that you can even get at the dollar store. This helps for pulling the zip ties if your hands are a little bit sore. So I do recommend, if you go to the dollar store, you can pick up a cheap pair, and it does really, really help on your hands. Okay, so let's do row 3 next. Again, sticking these all in. I'll use my little, there we go. Pull it straight down. And when the petals are all made like this, you don't even have to put down your pliers when you're tightening. Again, time saving. And if you are thinking of selling wreaths, time equals money. That is for sure. Oh, I forgot to snip this one right here. The only thing with working with white mesh is it's hard to see the zip ties. Okay, so let's snip. All right, now we are on row 4. Get our pliers, seam down. So if you're going to do seam down for all of them. So just try and keep that in mind. You want your flower to look uniform. So as you can see, I really like pre-making my petals and just getting it all in. Because like I said, I do make wreaths in my recliner, and that is how I came up with the Unique in the Creek wreath boards. Because I couldn't wreath normally sitting at a table like I am right now. Now I'm doing the tutorial, but I will have to take some breaks in between, which I have done when I paused the video. Okay, so we got 2 more pieces to add. So you need 36 pieces altogether, and in a roll of 10-yard mesh, if you cut it 10 inches, you get exactly 36 pieces. That's why I really stress about making sure they're actually 10-inch. If you're shorted 1 piece, don't worry about it. You can leave one of these not filled, because when we put our center in, you can see that you wouldn't even be able to tell that we're missing 1. But hopefully you have 36 complete pieces. Okay, we are done constructing the flower. Okay, cut our last piece. All our zip tie tails, we'll just toss in the garbage. And we'll just make sure everything, oh, another zip tie tail. And should be putting my glasses on when I make these. So as you can see, they're all overlapped. It's looking fabulous. I got my green mesh all the way around, and it's framing it nicely. Looks beautiful. The only thing we have left to do is put our center on. So if you've received one of our kits, the pipe cleaners and the U-pin are already done for you. So what you're going to do is you're going to take one side of your pipe cleaners, so 2 pipe cleaners, and you're going to go down. Just pick a set of holes. So we'll go right here, and then the other 2 are going to go directly in the holes across from it, and there is zip tie in those holes, but the pipe cleaners fit quite nicely in the hole as well, still right beside it. And when I flip this over, you'll see exactly where I've gone. So you can see I put 2 zip ties, or the 2 pipe cleaners here, 2 pipe cleaners here. We're just going to pull it tight, not too tight. You don't want to pull it right off, and just wrap your pipe cleaner. Okay, flip it over, make sure the center is where you want it. You can fix your leaves. It's perfect, exactly where I want it. So now I'm going to flip this over, and I'm just going to cut off the ends of your pipe cleaners here. Discard that. Now these are wire, pipe cleaners are wire, so you want to make sure that you push down where you've cut that pipe cleaner, because it is metal and it can scratch a door. So make sure you push it down and tuck it in. If you have a hot glue gun and hot glue, I would suggest putting a little bit of hot glue just on the tips here. That way it's almost like a bumper to make sure it won't scratch anybody's door. And your flower, there's a back. So you can see all the holes are completely filled. If you're missing a zip tie on a hole, that means you're missing a petal. So you can flip it over to make sure that you got your flower completely filled. It's nice and neat. You do not need to cover the back up. You can write a note on the back of the board with a Sharpie marker. It will stay. You can stick a sticker if you're selling your wreaths. You could put a sticker with your logo and where to find you should somebody want to buy another wreath. It's a good place for advertising, especially if you're going to sell them at craft shows and stuff like that. Make sure you have something, even if you tape your business card to the back of the board. Something so they can contact you again, because they'll want something for fall and Christmas. And we flip it over, and we have a beautiful looking daisy. Thank you for joining me, and for more tutorials like this, visit and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Unique in the Creek, and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Pinterest. Thanks, guys, and hope you enjoyed. Bye-bye.